Hi, I'm Gina, and today we're going to work on our crow pose and how you can get into it. If you're new to crow pose, remember that it takes time, it takes a lot of practice, so starting where you're at and just getting used to having that weight on your arms. Right, so let's get started. Now you come onto your hands and knees. And you want to make sure your hand placement is correct. I'm going to turn to the side here for a second. So your hands go underneath your shoulders. Palms are down, fingers are spread really wide. Wide hands. And then coming up onto your feet, you're going to walk your feet up towards your hands. Your butt's high in the air. Bend your elbows. And there's two ways that I teach this. First one, I'm going to show from the front too. You're going to bend the elbows, and the elbows kind of go out a little bit. And once you get that bend in the elbows, you can take your shins and put them on the backs of your triceps. I'll show you from the side and from the front. So you're going to put the shins on the backs of your triceps, and if you're just starting out, maybe this is where you're going to stay. Your tummy is pulled in tight. Maybe bring up one foot, put it down, bring up the other, bring it down. If you feel pretty stable here, bring up both feet. See if you can point your toes. Engage the core by pointing the toes and get your heels up by your butt. Bring them up. I'll show from the front. So the elbows are out, the knees kind of go out wider, and then you gently put the weight on the arms and the feet come up. So that is one way I've taught this pose. Another way, and how I do it with kids, because I've noticed in my kids' classes, kids do it different. So I'll show you again. So your hand placement's the same. On the floor, wrists under the shoulders, hips come up. And this time, instead of bringing the shins to the backs of the arms, you're going to bring them to the outside of the arms. I'll turn to the front here. So you bring them to the outsides of the arms. And you're going to squeeze like the dickens with your legs into the arms. When I've taught kids, I've noticed this is what kids tend to do. They must think it's easier. So when I teach adults, I give them both options so that maybe one is easier to somebody. So, and it also comes into play later as you perfect your crow pose. So, with the arms down, elbows bent, and the knees come to the outside, and squeezing tight. Use the inner thighs. You're squeezing in on the arms. So this way. Knees are on the outside of my shoulders, outside of the arms. They're not resting on the back anymore. Tummy's pulled in. Core is pulled in tight. Really key, have that core pulled in tight. You're engaging those core muscles. Pull up on the belly so everything is tight. So, another option, if you've seen some crow poses where their arms are straight, that's where you can work into making your crow pose a little deeper. Some people call it crane. And that is where your arms are a little straighter. How I do that is kind of a combination of those two options that I've already told you. So my knees come up really high to the outside of my arms. They're kind of on the outside. They're not resting, because as you progress in this pose, you don't want so much the legs just resting on the arms. You're really using your core pulled in and using that core to keep the hips and the rest of the body up. So I'll show you a little bit more with the arms straight, hands on the floor again. I'm going to walk my feet in, come up to the tiptoes and get my knees up as high as I can, almost into my armpits, but they're not in my armpits resting. They're right on the outside. My stomach's gonna pull in really tight. And then slowly, one up at a time. Remember, pointing the toes and pulling the heels up. So, that is how you learn that crow pose. This pose can take a lot of time, a lot of practice, especially if you're not used to the weight on the arms at first. Maybe you don't have that upper body strength. So things like your chaturanga, plank, building that upper body strength to hold yourself up helps too. Thank you for watching. Have a lovely day. Bye now.